Let's go ahead and bring everybody's faces in. Let's go back a slide because I indexed too quickly. Welcome to episode 10 of Remote Voices. We are excited to have gotten all the way to 10. It wasn't that hard. We just did a stream every week. But what's nice about these streams is we get to kind of just talk internally, talk to people on the interwebs, and bring in some really cool voices from kind of the remote community. So we've got Averys here from Doist, and Averys going to tell us all about his job and how he's awesome and why we should all just follow him on all the socials and follow his lead. So Averys, kick it off. Who are you? What do you do? What's your job?
I'm Averys Advice. I work at Doist. We are a remote company. We are the developers behind Todoist, which is a to-do list app that helps you declutter your mind and achieve great goals. And we have an app called Twist, which is a remote-based, well, not remote-based, but a remote-optimized team communications app. I've been with Doist since 2017, and I've been the head of support since December last year.
Awesome. And what are the genesis of these names? Do you know? Like, why Twist? Why is it called Twist?
I can't tell you. I mean, I've seen the discussion. I know there were some other names, but we ended up with Twist.
Okay.
I can't tell you how that originated.
The domain was available. That's got to be what it was.
Well, it wasn't even. No, we were Twist app before, but now we're Twist. So, yeah.
Oh, yes. We are Yak Chat, and now we are Yak. So
there you go.
All good companies go through that same kind of exodus, I guess. So if you've seen the stream before, we're just kind of going to bring up some tweets. We're going to talk them out. Like I said on our last stream, we learned after converting this to an audio podcast that the whole Google Slides format doesn't make a lot of sense. So we're just going to read the tweets out loud, even if we're sharing up on the screen, so that everybody catching this on the audio side can kind of join in and understand the context of what we're talking about. So let me queue up this first one here. Let's see what we got. All right, so now that everyone at Google is forced to use Google Meet on a daily basis, it's seen more improvements in 4 weeks than the entire time it existed before that. Averys, did you use Google Meet? Do you guys use meeting solutions? What's your meeting solution?
We're using Google Meet and Zoom.
I use both.
Yeah. Sort of like we have people who prefer Zoom. We have people who use Google Meet. Now we're sort of switching back to Google Meet.
Is that like a pain for pleasure type thing? Like you just want as many bad conferencing solutions as possible?
Yeah, I guess, right? I guess. Got to suffer a little bit.
But I do find this interesting. You know, we talk about this a lot at Yak, how every day we are using Yak constantly internally, that dog fooding approach of just like finding the problems of a user because we're users of the product ourselves. Are you guys heavy Twist users, over at Doist?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we are the number one Twist user. We developed Twist because we had problems with our team communication. Working with a remote team across the globe, it's hard to keep up with chat-based communication tools. And Twist allows us to actually have deeper discussions and store that information in a way you can find it again 10 years from now.
Yeah. Jordan, what do you think of teams that build products and then don't use them themselves? Do you think it's possible to build a good product if you're not constantly using it?
I mean, sure, it's probably possible to build something. The question is, how good does it end up getting? I think you build a certain threshold or ceiling for yourself if you don't use it internally, because if you're not solving something that you need yourself, how are you going to solve other people's needs? So I think it's really hard to, but sure, you can probably build something. Is it going to be good? Probably not.
And Hunter, you talk to our customers every day. So you might be a proponent of it's okay as long as you're talking to your customers. Do you think that that's a valid point?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess what I find really interesting about this tweet is that it implies that Google wasn't using Google Meet every day. Like what tool were they using before this? I actually really like Google Meet. In fact, like a few days ago, I made a tweet that said, unpopular opinion, Google Meet is greater than Zoom. It actually went a little viral over, I think, 25,000 impressions. I'm at 32,000 impressions. So clearly it struck a chord. A lot of people were talking about the bugs and how Zoom is just better all the way around, but apparently Google's on the on the mix track now. So it's pretty cool to see that they're actually like improving it and not just letting it die.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's probably more likely here is that, well, I do think that they were forced to use it because they're more remote now. Google was a client of ours at So Friendly, so we did meet with them pretty often, and they did use Google Meet. They all had to go into physical conference rooms to meet with us. They never did it like remotely or, just like at a desk. They had to go into a room and use like a conference bridge inside of that, like a screen inside of that room. But I think what's more likely the scenario here is that all of a sudden conferencing software became a very hot commodity in terms of IP that your company could own. And so, yes, I'm sure that it's gotten much better, because people are using it and they're finding these issues. But I'm also sure that it's gotten much better because suddenly having a really good conferencing experience adds a lot of value to your company. So dev resources are going into it, design resources are going into it. And if we know anything about Google, it's that their messaging strategy is crap. How many different failed messaging and social platforms has Google put out in like the last 5 years? We got Duo, Allo, Meet, Hangouts, Chat, Hangouts, Meet. And we have their Slack ripoff that I don't even know if it's available. There's so many different messaging solutions that Google puts out, and I guess it's clear that conferencing is actually going to be where the money's at. So they finally decided to put some resources into it.
Averys, I'm actually really curious. Do you prefer Meet or Zoom?
I prefer Meet. I like just how easy it is to use. I use Google Calendar as well, so it's just flawlessly integrated. Yeah,
that's it.
Maybe
that's it, man.
Maybe the problem here is this whole time there's been a massive misunderstanding, and people in Silicon Valley saying that they prefer Meet has just really not gone over well with vegans. Google just had a misfire with their naming again, and
Google Meet.
Google Meet it sounds very non-vegetarian.
We just made a new conspiracy theory.
Yes, yeah. That's right. Conferencing software that is run by vegan empires. Is Zoom vegan? That's the ultimate question now. All right. What do we have?
Okay, yeah. Anyway, next one.
Oh, come on. Let me have my dad pun. As of today, Shopify is a digital by default company. We will keep our offices closed until 2021 so that we can rework them for this new reality. And after that, most will permanently close remotely, or most will permanently work remotely. Office centricity is over. This is a very damning tweet, a very big statement here. This isn't a I think we'll go remote. This is, yep, we're just gonna close and we probably won't ever open up again. Aver, you guys are completely remote, right? You have no offices at all. And
we have a shared workspace, but that's it. We have a shared workspace in Porto, but no office really. No.
Is that just because there was a generic gathering of humans in that area, so it made it convenient?
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about companies doing this? You guys have been doing it forever, so it's not a change. Do you think that this will rock the boat of a company? Do you think people will adjust forever? I think in the minds of a lot of employees, we all thought, I'm sure there's a lot of employees on all these companies that are going remote saying, well, it's fine. For 6 months or for a year, this will be the change. And now all of a sudden the CEO comes out and says, yeah, you know what? We're not going to change it. Do you think these employees will go seek, places that have offices? Do you think it will cause issues where they feel like they never got to go back to normal? I don't know. Just kind of give me your brain dump on this.
Well, I think it's great that people are starting to think about remote as a serious option, right? I think a lot of time is wasted being in traffic, being in meetings you don't need to be in, being disrupted in the office. I think remote is the future. If it works for everyone, I don't know. We've had people at our company that it just didn't work, right? They need that human interaction. They needed that part of the routine. It's not for everyone, but I like that the option is being created.
Do you think software can solve some of those things, though? Do you think apps can, that provide presence or better communication can solve some of those things that are lacking?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, we're doing casual hangouts with the company just so we get that human interaction, but still it's different when you interact like this or when you're in a room together.
Do you do your casual hangouts on Google Hangouts?
Yeah.
What is up with all your terrible puns today?
It's not a terrible fun. It's a valid question. I mean, there's a lot of companies that have made these types of claims. I mean, I think there's even maybe one or two more in these slides. I think Facebook being probably the biggest one. And if you've ever been to, the Facebook campus, it's a sight to behold. And I think Hunter and I talk about this a lot, about how important an office is sometimes just a culture fit. Like it's, you go in there, it's not, we talk about offices a lot as like not even the place that you get work done. It's just kind of the place that like defines how fun your job could be.
Yeah, definitely. And also how fun your job isn't, right? Before I worked in a gray building where everything was gray, and there was no joy there at all in that building. But people said you have to come into the office. You have to come in the office, even though it didn't make sense. But you have this management style where people want to know exactly what you're doing, and it doesn't matter if you are more efficient remotely or not. You have these type of managers that just want to control their team. And I think for them, it's going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think we talk about that a lot, just that it's typically down to the team leads that they need to adjust their management style, their micromanagement, or their fear of the unknown needs to change so that this can be successful. But, Hunter, what do you think about these big companies that to some degree, I feel like you might go get a job there because of the Google campus or the Facebook campus or the free snacks? Do you think that that's going to change how people look at what companies are hiring?
I don't know. Well, for me, it's like I don't think the offices are actually going to be a place of working anymore, which sounds kind of weird. I talked about last week how like at Google they have like Guitar Hero up in the window, so you can tell that they're obviously like hanging out. But what Aver just reminded me of is that they had surfboards. Like you can walk by their little thing, and they've got like a little dog park, and they've got surfboards lined up and bikes, and basically it's just, I wouldn't say it's a storage facility, but they're encouraging them to hang out outside of the office. So it's really just like a place where you come and grab your stuff, and then you go and explore the city. So I can definitely see a world where the office space isn't really for working. It's more of just like, let's go play Guitar Hero. It's like, well, I don't own that. Let's just go to the office.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, like the first or second episode, that idea of like maybe office spaces will become rented shared spaces, like where multiple companies all kind of like pony up some cash together to have like a fun place for people to hang out, but it's all shared, so Google and Facebook share one building instead of having separate campuses. I don't know. I'm sure there's a startup in there somewhere. Maybe this is where Airbnb ends up pivoting into, is, renting out like shared co-fun spaces. It's not co-working anymore. I don't know, Jordan, do you think that that'll have an impact on hiring?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will, but I think what I'm most interested in is, for some reason, like these massive companies is like the justification that some other smaller companies need to like go remote. Like a bunch of people are like, all right, well, now that Facebook or now that Shopify is doing it, like I guess we'll go remote. So it's like weird to me that like it tells me people were already thinking about going remote, and then for whatever reason, now that the big guys are going remote, they're like, they feel validated and like able to like, oh, okay, well now I can do it.
I assume
it's like a weird
has something to
confirmation
do
thing.
with like, we read books from Peter Thiel and we're like, all right, this is the way to build your business because he was successful. I assume it's the same thing, right? Watch Facebook be successful, to mimic their behavior. Okay, offices are obviously very important to them. That must be some like secret key to success, is having an office. And now all of a sudden the big company says we're not doing it anymore, and everybody can go, maybe it wasn't a key to success.
Well, it's also a competitive advantage, right? Like we just hired a really talented developer because simply we allow for remote work. So if you're going to force people to come into your office, it's like almost a disadvantage now. So you have to make it either a fun place or not required. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
What will be
a really good point.
What will be really interesting, I think we have a tweet about it later, but it's like, some people want to go into an office because they don't have like the at-home setup like to work remotely. So it's like now our company is going to have an obligation to like help pay for like, people's at-home setups, like an extra room at your place. Like, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to that tweet, but I think the infrastructure conversation is really interesting as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask Aver, like, is that something you guys do at Duis? Like, do you handle, like, obviously I was talking about this with the team last night, is all these companies, these startups that like provide snacks and like soda fountains and like chefs to, your kitchens at your office. Like they don't have clients anymore. Do you guys have alternatives to that like fit the remote work lifestyle? Like, do you have a snack machine you ship to everyone's house?
Well, we have perks, right? So we have
Okay.
a budget that we can spend on healthy food and snacks, that we
Oh.
can spend on wellness.
And that's just
so
like a stipend that they give you?
yeah,
Okay.
everyone gets it.
How do you guys distribute that? Like we use Zestful, which is like not for health stuff, but you can spend Spotify if you want.
Well, you just have this budget, and you can use a company card, and you
Okay.
have a max every month.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's cool. I think a lot of companies are going to have to start doing things like that as, the cool office space is no longer a factor in hiring. You're going to have to give at-home perks as well. All right, so this next tweet.
Speaking of, yeah, here it is.
Yeah, do you want to read this one out, Jordan?
Yeah, sure. So this tweet says, this realization just hit me today. As work from home continues and potentially becomes permanent, companies are basically shifting their burden onto employees who need an extra bedroom as home office to stay efficient and sane. Should employers subsidize your mortgage then?
Oh, I didn't even know it ended with your mortgage being subsidized.
Yep.
I hadn't read the whole.
So it's like,
whole tweet.
yeah. What do you think, Justin?
Well, I would love that. I'm in a room dedicated to my office. That's the only thing I do. I talked to Hunter last night with his new lease. He's specifically looking at a 2-bedroom just so that he can have a room dedicated to an office.
Yep.
We talked about this on Capiche. They did that AMA with like remote workers, and my piece was specifically around a tip for working at home. And my tip was have a dedicated space that is literally just for work, so that you go into that space like focused and you don't get distracted, and that you can leave that space when you need to leave work. Because I always talk about this problem of like, sure, I never had to go to work, but I also never got to leave work, and that's kind of the downside of remote work.
Exactly.
You don't have that disconnect. Avert, do you have a dedicated room for work, or do you just like work at your kitchen table?
No, I have a dedicated office. It's just on the 3rd floor. There's nothing else here. I mean, there's a guest bedroom next door. So this is my zone, right? If I want to step out of the office, it's 1 meter away, and I can just shut it at the end of the day. I think it's essential.
Yeah.
I know some of my colleagues don't have that, but then they make use of co-working spaces because it's so hard to work and live in the same space and get to disconnect and recharge. I don't think a lot of people will be able to do it that way.
I think that's an important distinction to make. I think a lot of folks think that remote work equals work from home. And in this scenario, it happens to because of the virus, but that's not always the case. I used to do the same hack when I had a smaller house. I specifically had a co-working membership because I had to get out and go to like a focused place because I didn't have that spot at my house. And that was huge for me. In fact, the agency that I worked with, I don't know, 5 years ago, that was actually a stipulation as part of my hiring, is I asked that if I was going to be working remotely for them, that they put some kind of like budget for co-working space. Whether it's just like $250 a month for me to have like a personal membership at some co-working space, that was actually a requirement that I gave them because I needed to get out into a focused work environment.
What's Dayton's on here? Hey, he says, "Yep, helps keep yourself sane." I think that was actually the first comment we've ever gotten on StreamYard. This is our, I think, 2nd stream here. It's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, what's up?
But what I don't think, so the question in here says, should employers subsidize your mortgage? I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but like in my case, I'm getting a whole 2nd bedroom just for office space. Like there's literally not even going to be a bed in there. It's just for the office. And so if the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom is like $300, I can see that, but not the entire freaking mortgage or rent. That's probably a little ridiculous.
I was thinking about this the other day after you and I talked. Was I wonder what will change in the tax law around that tax break you get for like using a home office.
Yeah.
I wonder if they will up it, if they'll limit it because now everyone is claiming it, if they'll make it easier. Like there's like all kinds of crazy rules. Like one of the rules is you can't have a television in the room, which is absurd. Like having a TV in your office is actually nice to be able to like put stuff up on the screen, like a calendar, share something if somebody else comes over and works with you. Like we used to have a TV in my home office to do that kind of stuff. So I wonder if they will either relax or restrict those tax breaks here in the U.S. at least. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think something will change. Yeah, I'm sure it will get relaxed. I think Dayton says no TV. What's a computer screen if not a TV with superpowers?
Yeah, you said it.
He should write
What's
the definitions on bestbuy.com.
What's also interesting though is like then do employers have an obligation to like pay for like the tools, so like a desk, monitors, computers, right? Like when you go into an office, you kind of get all that out of the box. So Aver, like, do you guys currently give employees like all that, or like what do you guys do?
So we have a co-working space budget, and we also have a hardware budget. So you get a welcome budget, which you can spend on tech, and then every 2 years you get a budget for hardware. So I basically upgraded my entire PC setup.
Nice, that's
using
sick.
this budget. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Is it specific to what kind of hardware I could buy, or could I, buy like an Xbox?
Well, I haven't gone that. I don't think anyone's tried that yet.
It's an honor system, huh?
Life hacks. Go get a job at Doist, buy an Xbox, quit.
Buys an Xbox, but use the Xbox browser to do all your work on. How amazing would that be?
It's Google Meet certified.
If you can be more efficient than just any other person in the company on an Xbox, then I think it's valid.
It works. Okay, as long as you can prove that efficiency
Where I'm
level.
telling you, I'm switching up my workflow now.
Yeah.
I mean, we just did this yesterday. We just hired a new employee, or gave him an offer letter, and part of it was I'm leaving a job. They're going to take my laptop with me, or with them. I'm going to need a new MacBook. And I said, yep, we'll buy you a brand new MacBook 16. That'll be part of like your welcome package. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I do think that'll become more and more common, but I also think that will extend to things like a desk or a monitor or a TV with superpowers. Because I think that's going to be normal. I see a couple startups that are doing this. I think I can never pronounce it. It's like Gwork is the name of the company, but they do like mass purchasing. So like if you have a company of like 60 people, you get like better pricing, and you can like buy desks or lease desks from them. And then like when that employee leaves, you just like reallocate that desk and they take care of everything for you. But it's like shipped to people's homes. So there's already startups kind of solving this problem.
I think it'll be really interesting. So like for us, obviously we've been working remote for a while, so like we kind of know what to do. But like the people who are just kind of like discovering remote for the first time, like I know there are people who have no, setup at home, and it's like impossible for them to get any work done. So I think that's really interesting. The people who like aren't really techie, if you will, but like are being forced to kind of figure it out, or like, Lily said, will the employers who already have desks and such receive a stipend anyway? What do you guys think?
I mean, to be fair, you would kind of have to. Like, you can't like punish someone for having a better setup when they got hired, right? You would just need to like go into something else. I think maybe that's what Averys was saying, is that they have like a budget for health and wellness and stuff. Like I know I worked at a company years ago that gave a budget for education, which I thought was really cool. And that didn't necessarily mean you had to go to college, but it meant that you could pay for like ebooks, or like you could go take a community college course if you wanted to, or a conference. Like I used mine for CES one year. So yeah, I would assume they would have to do something. It would have to be some generic budget, in case someone didn't want to give up their existing desk setup.
Yeah. And then to answer the question about what happens when a person leaves, Averys, I'm actually curious to hear your answer, but typically what we do is if we just like give you a loaner, like we make it really clear, but most people nowadays, we'll just buy it for them. Like our new developer that just came on, we're going to be buying him a MacBook. And that's part of like a good faith, like upfront to say like, we really want you. And like, obviously it's a perk, but then at the same time, it's like about employee retention. Like we've been working with the same team now for 4 years, and we've basically retained almost every single employee, and just like doing stuff for them like that. Like we're not going to sit there nickel and dime and be like, well, we gave you a $1,600 laptop. Now you either owe us $1,600, you need to ship that back. Like, that's just not the remote work, like trust lifestyle. So Averys, I'm actually curious what your stance is on that, because you just upgraded everything. Do you have to give it all back if you decide that you need to leave?
Well, we have the same faith in people, right? Like it's an investment you do in your employees. And we also don't, I mean, I'd like to think that people in our company wouldn't wait till they have this hardware budget unlock again and then say they
And
quit.
then quit.
I'm not on top of that, but I don't think that's really the part of our core value. So I don't think they would have lasted this long in our company if they were this type of person.
I mean, we talk
Yeah,
about this
makes
all the
sense.
time. Like the core tenet of remote is trust. And that trust goes both ways. A team manager trusting that you're getting your stuff done, and an employee trusting that the company will take care of them, and the employer trusting that the employee won't screw them over. So, you know, it's all just like giant circle of trust.
Yep. And if you don't have that trust, that's more of a hiring issue, not a stipend management issue, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So this next tweet was, I tried to figure out why Zoom socializing is so exhausting, and I ended up being kind of glad that it is. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but she basically wrote this, and it's like a huge op-ed, like it's a huge piece about why Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And, you know, we talk about Zoom fatigue a lot, and I think one of the things that people fail to understand, I guess, is the biological, psychological, kind of human element, you know, behind talking and speaking. And, you know, just like we're being on the stream, it's like a crazy thing that I'm trying to manage right now. We'll see how it comes off in the stream. But you guys are actually like down here because my laptop is down here and my camera is up here. And so I'm like trying to talk to you, but look into the camera lens at the same time. And it's super difficult because I want to look good on the stream, but I'm used to looking at humans when I speak. And so it's actually kind of uncomfortable. And her whole piece kind of goes to this concept of like, no one is used to sitting for an hour staring forward into like a grid of eyes. Like that's not the way you speak to humans, right? You're close to them, your eyes are connected to them. Or if you're in a group, you're standing back and they're in like a circle. Like you just don't talk to people in like a 2D plane in a grid of boxes on a normal basis. And it was very interesting how she like dives into, we as humans are not used to this. And so, yes, doing 6 hours of this a day is exhausting because it's not the way our brain expects to communicate. I don't know, Aver, you guys must meet at some point. I'm sure that you limit it because of you know, amazing tools like Twist, but you know, do you experience the Zoom fatigue, and why do you think it is?
I definitely experienced it at the height of the lockdown here because I was just so exhausted, and socializing is also exhausting, right? Because it's nicer to just do some deep work and then log off, not do a little bit of work, then have a talk, do another bit of work and have another talk, because you're constantly switching tasks. And you're also sort of starting to have the same conversations with everyone. And yeah, I don't know how much you gain from that, right? This is your work time, and you can use it the way you want. And I maybe it sounds a little asocial. I enjoy deep working more than socializing for a large number of hours per week. I have a team of 12, so we have a monthly meeting every month with the individual, and then 2 team meetings, one with the Americas and one with people in Europe and Asia. Then I also have a meeting with my with our COO. So I already have a lot of meetings, and I really get to socialize in these meetings. So I try to keep my additional meetings to a minimum. I also live with my partner and my kid, so I do get to socialize. If I would be living by myself, I think I'd need it a lot more.
Yeah, Jordan must really need that bad, huh, buddy?
You know me, I'm introverted as is. I'm happy as hell. I couldn't ask for better.
You like being alone?
Yeah, I like my space. I mean, you
But-
guys know this about me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting how the socialization efforts are shifting. You know, we talked on 2 weeks ago just about how Fortnite is now a place that you socialize. And what's interesting about that is how it is a little bit opposite of what Zoom is, right? You project your voice through a character in a different plane of existence. You know, you don't have to stare into people's eyes the whole time. There's no pressure to even be like present necessarily. Like you can actually join Fortnite through the mobile app and not even play the game, but just join like the party chat. And I think that ambient communication is going to be where things take off. Like I'm assuming you didn't miss it, Avert, but did you see the whole buzz about Clubhouse on Twitter over the last couple weeks?
No, I didn't see it, so I did miss
Oh
it.
man, so it's essentially Discord for VCs.
Okay.
So that's been a thing that randomly got funded by Andreessen. Um, I get the vibe though. I understand it. I think that talking in like a open channel with your friends or with people that you want to meet or know, I think that there's premise there. Like it makes sense, especially because we've already identified issues like this with like Zoom fatigue, where it's not fun to stare at a screen and just talk to a grid of boxes for 8 hours. But it would be fun to like cook and relax and maybe hear other people's voices and chat back to them, but without that like weird requirement or pressure to like stare at them. So it's interesting how people, or I guess as humans, we are adapting to different ways of socializing, and some of them have like these high friction points, like Zoom maybe, where you're just not used to it at all, and it's very difficult to enjoy a Zoom call. Where some of them, like a Discord or a Clubhouse, though, seem a little bit, more interesting. And I think House Party is doing that as well. And one of the things that Nilay talked about on The Verge with House Party was that the cool thing about House Party is that you don't get a phone call and you don't pick up. It's just you like open a room and you say, look, I'm available to hang out. And if somebody wants to come in and hang out, they can come and hang up. And he said, one of the most nerve-wracking things in the entire world is like FaceTiming somebody, because you don't know, like they could just be like, on the toilet, right? Because you're just like instantly, hitting their video camera. And he said that's such a like stressful thing for both parties, is like, I don't know where they're at, or I can't pick up, but I should pick up because it's ringing and it'd be rude to decline it. But with stuff like House Party, it's a little bit more passive. You just choose. You're like, yeah, I'm interested. I'm going to hop into this chat. Hunter, what do you think about that? I know you're a fan of House Party.
So my buddy, his name is George Fury, and I went out to House Party and I just saw Fury Cheeks. All right, click on it, and then all of a sudden I was in the chat. There was no ringing or anything. I wasn't sure what I was expecting with Fury Cheeks. So all of a sudden I just saw his face and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of cool." But after a little while, it got kind of weird. Just standing there with my arm in the air, just by myself, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. Didn't mean to call him, and it just happened. So I feel this, man. Zoom socializing is completely exhausting. I mean, after doing a podcast for a while, I'm like, I need to just like take a break. I need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Like, so I can imagine people that are doing it all day long. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely think that there will be someone that figures out the magic formula to socializing post COVID-19, as well as kind of like post any of the existing apps that we have now. I don't know, maybe Facebook Rooms, their Zoom ripoff is the answer somehow.
Could be. Justin, before we move on to the next one, Manuel BL said, what's your advice to start looking for fully remote software engineer architect jobs? I don't know if we're hiring. I'm just curious. Maybe
there's
ever
lots
had
of
something.
job boards. Avert, where do you guys post your jobs to?
Let me think.
We work remotely.
I feel like Remote OK might be one.
It might be, but I can't think of the main one that we use right now. But I know someone from our company is in the chat, so maybe they'll be able to share this.
I mean, also just like generically on Twitter, if you just like search like remote jobs and search, like there's so many things that come up. So
we actually posted to Almanac a guide for how we hire. So reverse engineer that and you will find your answer, because we don't look on your typical job boards. Like I'm not browsing monster.com or Indeed to find good candidates. I'm actually typically on Twitter, Reddit, sometimes Upwork, because sometimes I'll like hire somebody there and they work out really well and we'll hire them full time. But yeah, I think, check out the guide on Almanac. That'd probably be a great place to start, because I kind of outline how we hire for remote, and it will also give you a good set of tips on expectations and things to do and don't do to kind of optimize for like a remote quote unquote interview. And a lot of it has to do with communication, where we find you, how you present yourself. I think moving forward, every single job board on the planet is going to have a remote tag now because they'd just be insane not to. Although that does seem like a great startup opportunity now, a website that does only non-remote jobs. We could make that like one company very happy who refuses to move. But yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
moving forward, it won't be hard to find a remote gig.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, Mr. DHH, you want to read his tweet, Justin?
Yeah. Hunter, who doesn't know who DHH is, should read it, but I'll do it. The best thing about Twitter, Shopify, and Facebook going remote is that we can finally kill the nonsense about where the magic happens. That argument just got turned into a bleeping joke. I mean, it always was, but now everyone will be laughing. Man, he is so snide sometimes. I mean, he's right though. Especially when we talk about the fact that Yak is built out of Florida, Orlando, Florida, although I guess Orlando is where the magic happens. But, you know, we talk about all the time that Silicon Valley bubble, that concept that everybody has to be, you know, on the boardwalk or, you know, on, you know, a certain street in New York or a certain street in the Valley to kind of be in that environment. And I think that he's right. We will finally be able to get to a point where a company can just be founded anywhere. If you want to start a startup in Ohio, you're more than happy to do that. Avert, where did you guys headquarter at? Like, where did you guys start?
I think we started in Chile,
Wow.
and then the first job listed was already a remote position. So that was already our intention. Like we wanted to find great talent. Why would we limit ourselves to just this place, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like we said earlier, it also has the reverse effect. You know, we just had a guy that worked with us years ago come back and say, "Hey, I went and got my fancy job out in the Valley. You know, I want to travel the world now." And they told me, well, we don't support, you know, people working outside of the US. So as long as you stayed within, you know, the US, you'd be fine. He's like, well, I want to go to Georgia, you know, and not the state. And they said, well, that would make it really complicated to pay you. So I guess you'll have to leave. And we kind of welcomed him with open arms and said, yeah, dude, absolutely. We'd love to have you back. That'd be fantastic. And I think that not only does it open us up as a company to better talent, but the talent actually now has more opportunities to go work where they want to work and not where maybe they're pigeonholed, you know, into working. But, you know, Hunter, you lived out there, at least I guess in the LA kind of area. What do you think will happen to the magic in that area? Do you think it'll maintain? Do you think people will leave?
Well, we're already seeing people are leaving. A lot of people in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. I think it might actually be on one of our slides here. I'm not sure, but they're saying like, if everyone's leaving, why aren't rent prices going down yet? So maybe the magic isn't really happening there anymore work-wise, but there's still the demand there. But I don't know, man. Like when I lived in LA, there's a sense of pride in every city. Most cities, I would say, actually have like a sense of pride. You see in Orlando, Baltimore certainly has it. LA, San Francisco, New York City. I just think that there might be the magic there because of the social interactions and the opportunities, but I don't necessarily know if work-wise, like you need to be in the same room as your coworkers for that magic to happen.
I agree with that a lot. I don't think the tweet is in our deck for today, but there was another tweet that we dropped in our channel in Slack that was someone saying, I think people underestimate the allure to these cities is not about the jobs. It's about the fact that you can open your door, walk out, and like go hang out with people, you know, inside of like 20 feet, because it's just so compact, so many people that are like-minded, same age, in an area where there's a lot to do. And I do think that that has a lot of bearing, but I also don't know that that's for everyone. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that live in those areas that did just because they had to, and now have the ability to kind of exit. Do you live in an area that has a similar vibe, or are you in a farm town like me?
I'm in a farm town.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Absolutely.
That's what I love.
We have
Which
the
country are you
largest
in?
cow population of like the U.S. in the city that I live in. So it's lots of cows here.
There you go. I live in the Netherlands.
Oh, very cool.
So you've got like rolling hills and clean air.
Well, we got no hills at all.
Oh, it's all
I think we're just as flat as Denmark.
Totally wrong.
But we got good air.
That's
You have
awesome.
good air. Well, that was the one thing that I liked about kind of that side of the world was I feel like the air just smelled better. Probably a pollution
Justin,
thing.
Dayton in the chat wants to know the name of your city where you live.
Oh, where are you, Mr. Yak CEO? I don't know why, but that makes me sound like an Asian CEO. I am Mr. Yak. I live in St. Cloud, Florida, which is like Osceola County. So it's like outside of Orlando, but it's just a bunch of like farmland,
The land of
orange
farm
trees.
and cows. Yeah.
Yeah,
Swamps.
definitely. Oh, we added this one last minute, and this is my favorite, especially having just hired a new engineer today. To all the engineers in the US celebrating work from anywhere, you are losing leverage. Do you have any idea how many engineers in India are patiently waiting to do your job for a fraction of the cost? And if you think this isn't about an economic decision by CEOs, you're crazy. I actually agree with this. I don't agree with it in such a like doom and gloom scenario. I agree with it more so in a step up your game scenario. You previously had the ability to be very complacent. You were their only option. They couldn't really go anywhere else, and they weren't going to find anyone cheaper or better in that area. But now that's no longer an issue. So I don't think that it is a losing your leverage and your jobs are just going to be replaced by offshore. I think it is a now it is time to prove your worth. And I think that there's probably a lot of engineers out there that did not previously really have to worry about that or think about that because they were just placed because of kind of local geographical reasons. They were conveniently located, checked all the boxes on a resume, and they hit whatever budget they had for that hire. And I think CEOs are going to have to rethink about retention, who they keep, who they don't keep, who's a good engineer, who's not a good engineer. I mean, we don't have to worry about this, right? Like Averys team is hiring globally anyway, so we're already hiring the right people for the right reasons. Aver, do you think this will have an impact on the talent pool in places like the Valley or New York City?
Oh, absolutely. You'll find that now you have to prove your worth.
Yeah,
Not just are you
exactly.
willing to relocate? Are you the best of the best? And I really like this, right? I like competition. I know that there are people that are better than me out there. Bring it on. And I think that's the kind of attitude you should have as an employee.
Yeah.
Aver, part of this thread actually had to do with support too, because someone else said something about how like support's the same way. Like as soon as you can get outside of the office at like let's say Google, that means that all your jobs are going to be exported to India as well. So obviously you're not in India, you're in the Netherlands. So I'm curious what you think about. Obviously you're already working remote and your whole team is. So like, what do you think about all your jobs being shifted over to India simply because of cost?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty confident in our CEO and the way he works. Then again, if they find someone better, and this is better for the company,
it's somebody better. They deserve to be hired. Exactly.
It's a business. Yep. It's hard to argue against that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Dayton in the chat, who's just like crushing it with these amazing questions, said, "How do you handle equity/payroll cross borders?" So this is a huge issue for us. We actually just saw one of our favorite companies, Deal. I think got 14 million in funding. Do you know if the number was correct? I hope I didn't just blow it out.
Like that, yeah.
I think it was like 14 million in funding. So they just got funded. I just announced their funding like 3 days ago. Let's Deal, I think .com, is that?
Yep. Yeah. No, you got it right.
It's 2 E's. So DEEL, letsdeal.com. We use that for contractors. We don't use it for employees because we already had Gusto, which handles this just horribly. So I don't recommend that for that. Although Jordan discovered today that it automatically filed our new employee hire in Washington, which was
finish your part and then I'll say something after you.
Yeah, I mean, so Deal is great. Big fan of them. They've done a great job. One of the cool things that they do is they automatically know the compliance for each country or state. So like California has different like labor laws. And so it will automatically put these clauses in your contract if you are hiring somebody in California. Washington has like a different requirement around workers' compensation. And, Florida has different laws around like state tax. And so it'll automatically figure that stuff out and put it into your system for you. And so what's really nice about that is like I don't have to worry about researching that. Now, conversely, unfortunately, you do have to hire or file in each state. And if you're going to give equity, that brings into a whole nother thing where you need to get legal involved. But at least for payroll taxes, we have a couple members, like we have one in Mississippi, one in California, one in Washington now. We used to have one in New York as well. In each individual state, we have to, what I do is I set their home address as an office location, quote unquote. It's not really an office location, but we have to treat it as like a nexus for the company, and pay taxes inside of that state. There is going to be a startup, and I actually hope it's Deal, but there's going to be a startup that one day nails that part. Not necessarily the paying of the employees, but the registration. I mean, Jordan, I'm sure you can rant about this forever, but it's awful registering in these states. Like, it is not easy.
Yeah, so like Dayton, for context, I do all of this for us. The one thing that I will say kudos to Gusto for is that it at least puts it all in one spot. So like say we're hiring this new guy in Washington, I at least have all of like the links and documents that I need right in one place. So good on for them for doing that. But yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if somebody like solved the problem of like knowing what, like how, or just like doing the registration for a whole, because it changes and it's like subjective to each state. So it's like you got to go to this website for this state, this website for this state. Oh, you need this license or this thing for this state, and it just is like it's such a pain in the butt. And then also just kind of like in general, dealing with government agencies is got to be one of the worst things that exist. Yeah, I mean, like you said, every state has a terrible government website. It's atrocious. So yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if somebody solved this problem. Amazing.
So free startup idea to any of the 8
Yeah.
people watching this right now. Go out and build some thing that just like proxies to every government website out there, so that us at Yak and Doist and other amazing remote companies don't have this massive pain in the ass where we have to register through your terrible government website with 0 instructions and all kinds of differing information. I mean, just getting our business tax license for like our local area was this battle of telling one entity at a state level or at a city level that we needed our license, and them telling us we needed it at our county level. When we went to the county, them telling us we needed it at our city level to get the county level. And we're like, dude.
So finally, yeah, it finally just got to a point where I was like, stop, like just give us this. We keep hearing the same thing 50 times in a row.
Like, get on the phone together and you guys decide, because you both don't even agree. This is ridiculous. Averys, I assume you don't run into this that often because of your position, but
Yeah.
So do you know how Doist solves this? Do you guys have something like Deal, or do you just do it all manually because you're bigger and better than us and probably have actual processes in place?
Well, we're all contractors for Doist, so
interesting.
we all
really?
take care of it ourselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that answers Dayton's question. He said people outside the United States, you have to treat as contractors, right? How do you grant equity? I actually don't know the answer to that last part, the equity question. But
I'm sure it would be complicated. The one, we have a developer in Venezuela, Juan, that does mobile work for us, and he's treated as a contractor, but I pay into a U.S. bank account that he has. So even though he's in Venezuela, he has a U.S. bank account that's legitimately set up, but we 1099 him. And even, well, technically we don't 1099 him either. He just is like a expense at the end of the month, essentially. He doesn't get like tax paperwork. But I think definitely giving them equity would complicate things. Another startup idea, international equity cap tables. I don't know. Carta maybe can get on that. They had like 1,400 employees or something ludicrous like that. I'm sure they could build out some like international cap table stuff.
Figure it out. Yeah.
But all right, that brings us to the end of the stream. Averys, can you kind of like cap us out here? Where can people find you? What apps should they download? What apps should they not download? Where can they get in contact with you guys? Where are your jobs posted? I don't know. Give us the rundown.
All right. Well, I'm not too active on social media. I like to do more reflecting on my own and write down my thoughts. But you can find me on LinkedIn. If you just type in my name, you'll find me. If you type in LinkedIn, linked.in/Averys-Veldhuizen, you'll find me. I'm also on Twitter, but I'm just there to see what's going on sometimes.
You're a lurker.
There my handle is. It's AverysV. You should download Todoist if you want to achieve great things, if you want to declutter things, if you're trying to figure out your life right now. Todoist is a great tool to set things up, divide tasks with your partner or your housemate, or even people that you just want to collaborate with on any skill. You can do it with Todoist. Twist is Another great tool, which I definitely recommend. I tried Slack for, I think, a good 10 minutes, and I really realized that's not a tool I ever want to be a part of. Twist actually allows you to have topical channels and threads in there, and you can actually have discussions that stay on topic. I think that's one of the greatest features about Twist.
Awesome.
Love it. Thanks, man.
We will drop some notes
Anytime.
in the. We'll drop some download links in the notes when this posts to YouTube, and we will tweet this out with a lot of links. And we're just going to tweet your Twitter profile so that everyone can follow the guy who never tweets. Just
Sure thing.
because.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and cue us out here. Thanks for joining us. Let's play our music, and we'll see you guys on the other side.